Alrighty, welcome to the 2023 University of the Incarnate Word Football Media Day. My name's Sam Kamen, and I'll be the host for today. So today we've got a couple different segments. We'll start off with our head coach, Clint Killough, some offensive coaches, Connor McQueen and Kenny Hill, followed by our defensive coaches, Jim Gush and Ben Olson, as well as an offensive and defensive player panel to cap it off. And so we're going to start off with our first-year head coach, Clint Killough. Clint, welcome. Let's just start off with this. How has fall camp been for you these past couple weeks? I know this is your first year as a head coach, but you got to do it as a player here at UIW. You've had multiple years as an assistant here. How different has it been this year versus past years?
Yeah, there's not too much difference. I've been blessed early in my career to be around some really strong mentors in the coaching profession that kind of showed me how to operate and how to run things. I'd probably say the biggest difference is I don't coach as much indie and I oversee a lot more things. But fall camp has been tremendous. We opened up pretty much every position across the board and let these guys compete. And there's been a ton of competition. We have a bunch of self-starters that competed and we got a lot better in a few weeks. So
that's great. And you come off the best year in program history. What's been one of the biggest reasons why UIW has been so successful? I mean, this is a program that's just barely over 10 years old. So how have y'all had so much success here early, and what's building that standard going into the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it starts with people, and we've done a tremendous job since 2018, since Coach Morris got here, of putting an emphasis on bringing good people into the building, both players and coaches, off the field staff, and that's the truth. I mean, good people produce good results, and we've majored in that. We recruit coaches that are selfless and that are life coaches first and foremost, and they're able to develop guys, not only on the field but off the field. And we recruit kids that really have three qualities. They love football, they know how to respond to being told no, and they got something to prove. That approach has been really successful for us.
And on paper, you're going to be the third new coach in as many years and a first-time head coach. So on paper, it looks like there might be some inexperience. But for you, you've been here as a player a lot of the past couple of years and as an assistant. So, I mean, you've got 10 years of Southland experience. How does that experience help you continue to build this program forward versus might see a regression possibly as a first-year head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about feel, and it's a unique situation to have 10 years of experience at one university, and 10 years of experience not just as a football coach with a whistle in my hand, but also as a helmet on my head and running around. And so I know what it's like to be in that locker room, and I know what it's like to be in those offices, and I think that's something unique, and that's something that I'm going to utilize from my perspective on a day-to-day basis. And these guys feel it too. These players and these coaches both know that I've been in their shoes, and I'll never ask them to do something that I haven't already done. And I think that has helped us come together and created a really good relationship with the guys in that building.
You talk about those shoes. You and your staff might be one of the youngest coaches in college football, as well as the youngest staffs. But how much of it is possibly an advantage of being youthful because you were just in their shoes, and how has that created maybe a relationship and strategic when it comes to recruiting and on-field play in getting those guys in positions to be successful?
Yeah, and relatability is huge, especially in the recruiting world, but I think the most important thing is just being authentic. When I hired a staff, I didn't go out and say, hey, I want to hire the youngest staff in the country or anything like that. I just wanted to hire the best coaches that were the most authentic human beings and that could relate to our players. Jim Gush balances out that youth on the staff, but he's one of the most authentic people that I've ever been around and one of the best coaches I've been around. So, we have good coaches in the building. I didn't go into it saying, hey, let me get young coaches and be this, that, and the third, but, it just kind of worked out that way,
And then last question before I turn it over to the media. Obviously a great season last year, but you only return 6 starters from last year's team. So there's going to be a lot of new faces. Who are some of those new faces that are really stepping up here in camp and are looking to become big contributing factors to the team?
Yeah, I mean, there's a plethora of guys. Obviously, when you bring in 30 transfers, you bring those guys in to play and to be impact players for you. Guys like Marcus Brown, guys like Mason Chambers, guys like Delia Deaway, Tylen Foster, Derek Lewis. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, Zach Calzada is going to be our starting quarterback this fall, and he's a transfer guy. So all of those guys are going to be impact players, and all of those guys, I've been really pleased with those guys because of their buy-in. And understanding that our culture is set, and winning is something that is extremely important to us, and they bought into doing everything that they can do to help us win those games. So
We'll pass it over to the media for questions for Clint Killough. All right.
Morgan, what you got, Bubba? Yeah. His day-to-day performance, his growth. He brought some baggage coming from where he came from and the things that he's been able to do in college football. But the humility that he brought with himself was tremendous. And he's grown in terms of being a leader. And we talked early on when he got here, it was going to be a process. And the guys that were here in this locker room weren't just going to hand him the keys to the car, because they've built something through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and they care about this place. They came back because they care about this place. And I think he's earned that right through his work ethic over the last 8 months, and he's starting to really come into his own and master this offense. So I think now is the right time to go ahead and let you guys know. Oh, he's tremendous. Hard hat mentality through and through. I've watched Chance over the last 4 years he's out on the track with his battalion at probably 4 a.m. with his rucksack running laps and doing what he has to do obligation-wise for the military. And obviously he's doing that to serve his country, but he's also doing that so that he has a way to pay for his education. And to watch him do that and come inside and put all of his stuff in his locker and then put his helmet and his pads on and go to work and not complain or whine or anything in the last 4 years was just tremendous. And he's made a huge impact on all 4 phases of special teams for us. So I thought it was important. He actually, right before that, he spoke to the team for about 10 minutes about his experience, not just in the military, but as a college football player at UIW. And I thought it was really impactful, and I'm fortunate and I'm blessed to give him what he's earned. So. Yeah, I'm big into being where my feet are. So right now we're focused on beating UTEP, and I challenge myself. Obviously, as a competitor, you look down the line and you say, okay, how do we feel about this game and this game? And you do some off-season studies in the summer on every team, just kind of a base level deal. But right now, the only thing that we're concerned with is the guys in El Paso. Yep.
I'll ask a couple more questions.
Okay.
Obviously, some of those spots you have to fill is on that wide receiver core. You coached the wide receivers
Yep.
last year. What are you kind of seeing from a depth perception in that room? Obviously, you lose Taylor Grimes and Darian Chafin, but you've got guys like Brandon Porter coming back and Jalen Campbell coming back, as well as adding a few transfers. So do you feel the depth and the quality up top is still just as good as last year?
Yeah, wide receiver play has never been an issue at UIW, and that's just who we are. That's the identity that we've created. And it's easy, from the outside looking in to see you lose 2 All-Americans, and it's like, okay, what's next? But, you talk about a guy like Jalen Campbell, and in my opinion, last year could have went anywhere in the conference and started. In my opinion, he's an extremely talented guy. He was a talented guy coming out of high school when he won the state championship in the 400-meter dash. And I'm extremely proud of Jalen Campbell because he's been through it. He's been a starter for 2 years, and then through some injuries, some opportunities got taken away from him. And I think that his maturity and his growth, not just on the field but off, is tremendous. And he stepped into a leadership role, and I mean, he's had a tremendous camp, and I'm excited to see him, come into that mold of being a guy that we go to on third downs and in important situations. Brandon Porter's another one, is super dynamic. I got a lot of love for BP and what he does on the field. He's fearless. He's made the comment to me once or twice before that when he touches the ball, he feels like a lion. And I love that. I do miss coaching those guys on a day-to-day basis, but Coach Willis White has done a tremendous job with them, just from an energy perspective, their preparation on a day-to-day basis. And then you also talk about guys like C.J. Hardy, who was a starter for us last year, who's tremendous as well. Marquez Perez has played a bunch of football. I think he scored a touchdown in the first 3 to 4 games last year. DeKalen Taylor. So we have a plethora of wideouts. I know the 2 All-Americans are gone, but we got guys that are have the ability to be All-Americans in that room still, and we've added some pieces, Jalen Travis and Caleb Chapman, who've had good camps as well. So I'm confident in that room, and I'm confident in the guy that's leading that room.
And switching it to the backfield, I mean, you talk about the wide receivers, you could go on, and this is an offense that you can kind of, if you're a running back, you can kind of get easily looked over based off of the year Lindsey had last year and all those wide receivers. But Marcus Cooper ran for almost 1,500 yards and was a big reason why you were able to stay balanced. What's the rotation looking like from a running back perspective?
Yeah, that was a quiet 1,500 yards by Marcus Cooper, as quiet as 1,500 yards could be. But I mean, he was pivotal, and running the football is pivotal in this offense. That's what we're going to do. We have to establish the run. I mean, football is football, and it's been that way for a long time. And you have to run the football, and you have to stop the run to win football games. Period. End of story. And Coach Hill has done a tremendous job in the running back room. To be completely honest with you, not just from, it's easy to coach guys on, hey, what do you do when the ball's in your hands? That's why we recruit guys to be special with the ball in their hands. But just the details of their backfield alignments, their pass protection, how they're getting out on option routes and things of that nature. Coach Hill has been tremendous in developing those guys, and we have a plethora of backs. Jarrell Wiley is coming back, and somewhat of the same situation as Jalen Campbell, where he's kind of stayed down and waited his turn, and I'm excited to see him kind of step up into that role and be a leader, and establish our run game. You brought Trey Siggers in, who's been a good college football player at a high level. And obviously he's coming off an injury. He was a really great addition in terms of just working like a pro. We had 7 a.m. workouts all summer long, and at 6 a.m. I'm watching him in the sand put every single morning, come in and then wash his legs off from all the sand, and then put his gear on and go out there and hit the team run at 7 a.m. So just to bring him in, and also like Zach with in terms of humility, he just comes to work every day. So I'm excited to see those 2 guys. You got Isaiah Robinson and Timothy Carter, who both had great camps as well. So we have a good room, and we have a lot of talent and a good guy leading that group as well.
Mm-hmm. And leading it, like you said, Zach Calzada being your starting quarterback, is going to wear number 1, which is very similar to what Lindsey Scott. You're going to see a lot of Lindsey Scott when you see number 1. How do you manage expectations and try to help Zach just understand that, hey, you don't have to have this season, you don't have to live up to a Walter Payton-like season. You can just be yourself and go out and play and see where the chips may fall, and he might end up winning a Walter Payton Award.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, and I've been pretty upfront with this, but last year was last year. Mm-hmm. Expectations are what you guys create, and that's fine. That's part of it. That's part of being in this sport. But Zach knows who he is. At the quarterback position in general, you're across the country, every coach in America is telling their quarterback, hey, you don't have to be Superman every play. You don't have to make every play. Just be you and operate the offense. And he's done a tremendous job of that. And one thing that I don't think will happen is I don't think any moment will be too big for him. I think he's been in some pretty big moments. And I think that he came here with a plan, and now his job is to execute the plan.
Switch it over to the defensive side of the ball. Really got after it. There was a defense that liked to attack. Got lots of tackles for loss, sacks, interceptions. where do you see the biggest strength of the defense this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be pretty good on defense this year. If you want me to be completely honest with you, I've seen the defense at UIW not be great. I've seen it been really great, and I'm pretty confident in our defense from top to bottom. I think our defensive line is tremendous. I think we have some dynamic pass rushers. I think we have some pluggers in the middle that'll be good. I think those guys are going to make a lot of plays in the backfield. I think we have some enriched talent at the linebacker spot. Obviously, it's hard when you replace two guys that have been starters in Isaiah Paul and Kelechi over the last 3 years, but those guys have made tremendous strides, and they all have the ability to be studs in this league. And I think on the back end, I mean, from a depth perspective, we've never had this much depth on the back end. You know, and you want to talk about bringing a guy back that's a pivotal piece to this defense is Brandon Richard. Brandon Richard probably could have went and played football at a lot of places in this offseason, but he came into my office and told me that he's different and that he loves this place and this is who he is and he wants to win a third straight championship. And his leadership and his energy has been absolutely tremendous. And then, you know, on the back end, guys like Mason Chambers and Ronald Wilson, James Twymey. I mean, we have some talent and some depth and some mature guys that have played in a lot of big-time football games on the back end, so I'm excited to see those guys get after it. We're excited to play someone that doesn't wear red and black, I can tell you that.
What's been the biggest reason for the kind of revival or total 180 of the defense? Obviously, this is a team that's been known to just outscore people,
Yeah.
but now it's a defense that, hey, if the offense is not having its best game, the defense can win the game for you. So has it been, like you said, there's a lot of depth in the back end. Has it been bringing in guys like there, or is it start up front?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely starts up front, just like we talked about earlier, running the football and stopping the run. But, you know, if you can dominate up front and you can get after the quarterback and, again, you can stop the run, then you're going to be successful. I would take Ben Olsen as a defensive line coach over almost anybody in the country, to be completely honest with you, just in terms of, you know, preparing those guys schematically and then, you know, technique-wise. I mean, he's second to none. And I know that not just from my observation, but just from the fact, I have guys coming into my office every day like, man, Coach Olsen's getting me right. You know, so definitely starts up front. But those guys, you know, the other piece is it also starts with who's leading the defense. You know, and again, Jim Gush is as authentic as it comes, and they feed off of that energy, and they feed off of that motivation, and you know, I'm excited to see those guys get after it.
And then final question for you. Obviously, there's a lot of goals that you probably have. You've won the Southland past 2 years, looking for a three-peat. Obviously, make it to the national semifinals last year. Want to get back to that Final Four and possibly to Frisco. What are those goals, and how do you make sure you stay grounded of, like you say, where your feet are to achieve those goals?
Yeah, I mean, and there's some dexterity to those goals. You know, obviously you got to take it day by day, and first and foremost, we have to go play UTEP in El Paso. You know, it starts there, and then we'll go to Northern Colorado, and then we'll go to Abilene Christian, and then we'll come home and start it off. Then we'll have a bye, and then we'll go into conference play. And so we're going to take it week by week. And our goal weekly is to win each football game that we play, to win the conference, and to win a national championship. And you know, those guys that came back, I mean, there's a good amount of them that are graduate students. You know, and in today's world, in the transfer portal, those guys could go and explore what they want to explore. And a couple guys chose to do that. You know, but I don't think that those guys came back not to be bold. You know, I don't think those guys came back just to win a conference championship. You know, quite frankly, if that's what they wanted to do, then I don't really want them to come back. So those guys are bold in what they want, and they know what they want, and they know that it's, you know, it's something that comes in order, and we have to be where our feet are. But winning each football game each week, winning a conference championship, and swinging our shot at winning a national championship is something that I believe that this football team can achieve.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We'll
No doubt.
take a quick break and then be right back with our offensive coaches.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Alrighty, welcome back to the UIW 2023 Football Media Days. We're now joined by our offensive coaches, offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Connor McQueen to my left, and associate head coach and running backs coach Kenny Hill to my right. And I'll start off with you, Connor. Thanks for taking the time. Obviously, this is a very similar offense that you come into with a spread mentality, not necessarily an air raid, but using the full length of the field, full width of the field, something you're very familiar with, working with Lincoln Riley at USC previously, UCLA with Chip Kelly, and even when you were a player at Texas A&M. What can we expect from this offense, you kind of know in this spread type of scheme, and what type of wrinkles or differences what might we see in a Connor McQueen type of offense?
Yeah, I think, and to kind of start with, who you mentioned and the people that I've been surrounded by, I think, part of the reason why I'm here is a byproduct of the people that I've been mentored by throughout my college football experience and throughout my football journey for my whole life, growing up in a football family. And I think, you learn as you go through this game, as a player, as a graduate assistant, as an analyst, whatever that may be, you learn different things, and you kind of start to pick out things that you like, things that you don't like. And I think the biggest thing, what I'm most excited for, is to kind of see what this offense turns into because of the personnel that we have. We've got a lot of really, really exciting playmakers, really at every single position, from the tight end room to the running back room, the wide receiver room, the quarterback position, and especially up front. I think we're going to be able to do a lot of things, and we'll end up being pretty multiple. But I think we'd be doing our players and our playmakers a disservice if we could say, all right, we're going to be this, and that, but we're not going to do this. And I think that's going to play itself out over the course of the first half of the season. I think I'm really, really excited to see what that turns into.
And obviously, you focusing with the quarterbacks. Zach's named the starter this today, but how close was that quarterback battle? You had plenty of guys, Stubblefield from East Carolina, Torres from Nebraska, and you've got 3 Power 5 transfers, so it was probably a very close battle.
Absolutely, and I think, at every place that I've been throughout college football, there's always been a lot of competition in the quarterback room, and I think that's what really drives it. Coach Killough mentioned it earlier that we have a lot of self-starters on our football team, and I think every individual in that quarterback room is extremely intrinsically motivated. They push themselves to be better, and it's not just in the meeting room, it's not just on the field. Those guys invest a lot of time. We push all the film to their iPads or to their phones, to their tablets, whatever they study film on. And those guys are in the playbook. Those guys are watching tape. They're investing the time outside the facility because they want to get better. But I think probably my favorite thing about that room is just the personalities that we have in that room. We've got some goofballs in there, and the two you didn't mention, Luke Gombert and Solomon James. Those guys have done a great job continuing to push our football team. Have done a really good job. But just from a competition standpoint, these guys have been competing really hard, and all 3 of those guys that you mentioned have made a lot of really, really good plays. They've led their offense, depending on which group that they were going with. They made some really talented throws, some tough decisions. Not only in the throw game, also in the run game, making the right decisions. Especially early on in the system when you're talking about possibly reading a defensive end or reading secondary players, whatever that may be. There's the growing pains and making the wrong decision. You got to make sure that you coach off the tape and coach on the field and make sure you get those guys to develop and grow. But that's the cool thing about that, is seeing the growth in each and every one of those guys throughout their transition, through their time in our offense. And so that's been the fun part of it, and really kind of culminating towards the end of fall camp where we're at right now, is that I feel comfortable with all those guys going in a football game, and not only going in, but winning a football game for us.
And one more question before I move over to Kenny. Obviously, Zach's the starter, but what have you kind of seen from him specifically that has stood out to you in making it kind of clear that he's the number 1 guy going forward?
When I talk about Zach, I think a quote that I heard from a mentor of mine once said, you have to begin with the end in mind. And when he got here, and some of the early conversations that we had is, what do you want from this experience? What do you really want this to be? And if that's the case, we have to talk about these things and we have to put a plan in place to get there. You're not going to say, all right, I want to drive. I want to hop in the car and I'm going to drive for 12 hours, but I'm not going to punch the destination into the, to your GPS, right? That's just foolish. So we wanted to talk about, where we wanted to go and what he really wanted to get out of this experience. He's played a lot of really, really big time football and played in a lot of big time games. So why UIW? I said, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish from this? What do you want to get out of this experience? And after kind of breaking some of that down, we put a plan in place as to how to get there. And that's been really, really cool to see him invest in the process. I think that's something that kind of gets lost, and especially when you look at some of the success this place has had over the last couple of years, is that you get very, very tied to the results at the end of the day because, that's what everyone's striving for. But when you can, no longer attach your emotions to the results and you start becoming emotionally attached to the process, that's when you really start growing. And I'm really, really proud of him in that aspect.
Now, Kenny, you come with a quarterback mentality, coaching running backs, but last year, FBS scoring leaders with 50-plus points was this team. But one of those underappreciated parts was the ground game and how effective it was. From your experience as a quarterback, how big is it to have a running game to keep the defense both honest with pass and run?
Yeah, you always hear that tight end is the quarterback's best friend, but in my opinion, it's the running back. Right, like take the pressure off him, running the ball, getting the defense to really suck in. That's when you get the big plays in the pass game. And then on top of that, just having a guy there down in the flat, right over the ball, whatever the case may be, to catch, get you yards. Those are like a little drop down, little check down for 3 yards. We make one guy miss, it turns into 20, and that's an explosive right there. Definitely been a different mentality for me. Like you said, being a quarterback, like it's always been pass. But now I'm kind of on the other side where I'm like, hey, Connor, man, chill with the RPOs. Like, we need to run the ball. Same thing. I talked to Zach and Rich and Stubb, and it's, hey, man, like, we're here for you. Just give it to us. Like, we got you. I promise. So it's been a little bit different for me, but it's been a lot of fun. Those guys have been great, been doing a good job all camp.
And talk about that running back room. Obviously, Coach Killough had mentioned a plethora of guys, but what are you kind of seeing from your guys in the backfield, and how explosive can they be this year?
I mean, you like he said, you got Darrell Wiley, Trey Siggers, Isaiah Robinson, Tim Carter, and then one he didn't mention is Tyrese Brown, who's done a great job for us. He's a core special teams guy for us, but he's really come on and really improved. But you got a room of guys that anyone can go for 150 any day of the week, like any single one of them, and they all bring a little bit different aspect. Wiley's a one cut, put his foot in the ground, and he's gone. Trey, smooth, really good with his reads, really good with his footwork, and can catch the ball out the backfield. You got Tim, who's a big back, Zay, who's a big back, and they both can punish people, but then don't get it twisted because they'll take off on you too. And then TB's kind of a mix of all of it. Like, and he's really kind of surprised me this camp. But, you got 5 guys in that room that, just hand us the ball, coach. Like, we're going to do something for you. But I'm really excited about all those guys. They've worked hard. It's been a great competition. Like we talk about in that room. Like, every day you step in here, it's a competition. And each one of them have really pushed each other. But the coolest part about it is all of them cheer for each other. They all want them to be great, all want to help, because they know the better each one of them are, the better our team's going to be.
And it seems like because there's so much depth, it's not going to just be a one-back system. It's probably going to be a 2 to 3 rotating, or even 4 or 5, all 5 of them rotating in and out. Is that the case?
Wait and see. Wait and see. But no, I feel comfortable, and all these coaches feel comfortable that any single one of them in there, we're gonna get great production, and they're gonna know what to do. They're gonna be there, and the biggest thing for me is staying in there, protecting for that quarterback. I've been back there in the pocket, and I know what it feels like when you don't have protection. And so that's something that we definitely harp on is, hey, no, you need to be there, step up, and put your face in there and help these quarterbacks get this ball off.
Got any questions for Connor or Kenny? If not, I got one more for you. So, obviously, 2 offensive gurus that y'all are, and y'all are very young, just like Clint. I've seen a couple times just outside of practice that y'all are on the goal line running through plays. This is very much a offense that you've run at South Lake Carroll, TCU, Texas A&M, and continuing to go wherever y'all have gone, UCLA and USC exactly. How much collaboration is there between you two, Clint, and the entire offensive staff in creating plays and thinking of new ways to get the ball in playmakers' hands? I'll go with Connor first and then you, Kenny.
Yeah, and to start with, just in talking about our offensive staff, I think, Coach Killough and myself, whenever we started talking about putting this thing together, I said, we're going to bring together and put together the best offensive staff in the country, and I firmly believe that. And I said that some of the guys that I wanted to be a part of this staff, I started saying some names like, Kenny Hill and Austin Woods and Ty Darlington and Willis White, and he goes, those guys aren't going to come coach at the Word. How are we going to get those guys here? And at the end of the day, those are some of the brightest minds in football that I've ever been around. And it would be foolish of me to sit here and say, all right, this is what I want to do. I'm going to put my foot down and say, all right, here's my offense. Right, here's what we're going to run. Absolutely not. And like I said, it's going to be a lot of what the players can execute and the players can feel comfortable with. But also, I'm very collaborative with our offensive staff. I think we've got some really good minds and some guys that have been exposed to a lot of different football at a lot of different levels. And in doing so, it's allowed us to really try to talk through a bunch of things. Do we want to run this play this way like we did when we were at A&M, or do we want to run this play like this like we did at Oklahoma? Or do we want to do it how it was done at TCU, or do we want to do it our own way? And so having those collaborative conversations has been really, really fun. And now sometimes that might mean that we got to shut the door in the office and we got to bark at each other for a little bit and talk, at length. But at the end of the day, we all come out with the right solution that's going to be best for our players. And I think that's been the coolest part is kind of talking about, not what is the best way to do this possible, but what's the best way possible for our players to get it done.
I mean, he just kind of nailed it right there. But I think the coolest part is, like you said, you have a bunch of young minds who've all done it a different way. And we all have different ideas that we're able to bounce off. And then, like he said, it just gets you to the best way for us to get it done. But it's cool coming in the office every day. Like y'all mentioned, like we have a young staff on the offensive side. But we're all hungry, we feel like it's our time to really put on, and we're trying to do the best job we can, not only for this team, but every single, like all these guys right here, like we owe it to them to do the best job we possibly can, because I mean we all have the same goal at the end of this.
Any final questions? If that is it, Coach Connor and Kenny, thank you very much for your time. We'll take another quick break and then get to our defensive coaches. You're watching UIW Football Media Days. All righty, welcome back to our UIW Football Media Days. Now joined with me are our defensive coaches. To my right, defensive coordinator Jim Gush, and to my left, defensive line coach and run game coordinator Ben Olson, and I'll start with Coach Cush here. Obviously, you're one of the older ones on the staff. This marks year 40 for you. What has it been like working with a younger staff? Obviously, you get to work with 18 to 23-year-olds all the time, but how are you embarking your knowledge on not just the players, but even some of these coaches?
I think that just bringing energy. These young guys, you got to get them pumped up every once in a while. So that's the main thing. But I love coaching. That's the bottom line. I don't worry about age or anything else. There's certain qualities that you bring to the table, young, old, doesn't matter. You got to have enthusiasm. You got to have love for the game. You got to be demanding, of your players. And I think that's what I bring.
You've been doing this a long time, and this is going to be a new defensive system for these guys. So what is your defensive philosophy, and how are the guys responding to it, getting used to the new system?
I think, you said I've been coaching for a long time. The game's changed quite a bit. It's not two-back ISOs and powers and all that type of thing. And I've kind of been on that tail end of it with, Coach Briles and Coach Snyder at K-State. And, when you're a young coach, you're worried about, what are your stats? How many yards do we give up? Those type of things. And the bottom line, is winning. And, our job is to get the ball back for the offense. So what we're going to do is we're going to get 3 and outs. We're going to make sure that we play great red zone defense and try to get the ball turned over and get the ball back. So, if we win 50-21 or, 50-48, that's the bottom line is we're winning. And but in reality, we want our guys to play great, sound, fundamental defense. Young, old coach, doesn't matter. You gotta play with great base, pad level. These guys hear it every single day, right, Ricky? Absolutely. And so I think that's the bottom line of everything. If you have sound foundation, we always talk about building. If you're going to build a house, if you don't have, it could be ornate and great, but if you don't have a good foundation, it's not gonna last. And we're building something to last.
And you talk about game changing. One of those things that has changed for the offense is tempo. And your offense here at UIW loves to use tempo, can score very, very quickly. Does that make it hard for a defense to be kind of out there a very long time, even though it's probably a good thing if your defense is out there because your offense is scoring so quick?
I've been involved with tempo offenses. Basically, they've created it at Baylor with Coach Briles and Coach Montgomery and those guys. And it goes back to what I just talked about, the philosophy on defense. You got to get lined up. That's the number one thing. What they're trying to do on offense is get you to be misaligned and try to get free plays from you. We don't want to give up any gifts. We want to make sure our communication is great. We're simplistic in what we're doing on tempo, and we get lined up and play. That's the bottom line. I think to play a tempo team, and we also know that we're going to probably play more snaps, and we've got to be well conditioned. We've got to understand, going back to what I talked about, what our philosophy is, and we don't care about what the yardage is in between the 20s. All right, we're concerned about the scoreboard at the end of the day, and that's the bottom line for us.
Moving to more of a position group, how Coach has mentioned the depth in the back end, the safeties, the cornerbacks. Brandon Richard's one of those that comes to mind, but what does the back end do for you when you talk about tempo? And a lot of these offenses like to air the ball out as much as they do today. So talk about that group and what you've seen from them here in fall camp so far.
It's pretty simple what the back end does. If they got their heels on the edge of a cliff every time they're back there. So if a D lineman, one of coach's guys, doesn't get in his fit and, they bust a run or whatever, I mean, not the average person up in the stands doesn't see it. But in the back end, you make a mistake in the back end, it's a fatal. We call them fatals. I mean, it could be 6 points. I'm excited about this whole defense, not only the back end, but the whole group. We really got Brandon is really the one that's the full-time starter coming back. I know we got Ricky Rich and Steve Parker that played a lot last year, but really that's it on the defensive side. But we're excited. Came in here with Coach Killough with about a week and a half before the school started and brought in some really good players on defense. I mean, in a short time. And then, in the second period of transfer portal and all that type of thing, this summer brought in some guys that we really feel could help us. And it's going to be challenging because it's a whole new group basically back there. But in the back end, Brandon Richard could have played for me anywhere I played. I mean, Baylor, Kansas State, SMU, doesn't matter. I love the guy. I mean, and he's an epitome of what I'm looking for as a player. I mean, high energy. All right. It means a lot to him, and obviously, he's talented too. But there's a lot of talented guys that don't become great players, and that's the thing I harp with our guys about all the time. I mean, you've got to put all the intangibles together if you want to truly be great.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Coach Olson. Talking about that front seven. It looked like it was a huge point of emphasis when y'all went into the transfer portal, when trying to fill so many spots that Kelechi and so many other graduating and guys that moved on elsewhere. So what does that front seven look like from a defensive line and linebacker standpoint, and what has it been looking like in fall camp so far?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, number one, it's a group. It's not just about one individual. I think they've all really come together and have learned how to play with each other. And that's a big part of playing front seven defense is you gotta trust the guy next to you to do their job and that you're gonna do your job. I think that they've the guys that really came in at the mid-year, they've really have changed some things about their game, and I think they're going to be in for big seasons. Some of those guys that are coming back, like Steve Parker, that's where it all starts for us up front. He's a difference maker. He brings the energy every single day, and we're gonna go far. And he's gonna be a big reason for that. But the way we talk in our room is, you can have one great D lineman, and it doesn't mean so much. But if you have a great D line group, that's when you talk about being a championship caliber team. And I think that's where our mindset is up front.
And Steve was one of those guys that was in the backfield a lot with tackles for loss and sacks. Just how disruptive can this defense be? Because it was one of the best defensives from a disruptive standpoint in those two categories. And walk us through kind of how it you mentioned it doesn't take just one guy. It's a full unit. So what is kind of the philosophy when attacking and getting after the quarterback?
At the end of the day, you got to win your one-on-ones up front, and it all starts with the attack-first mentality. I mean, we're going to get on guys, and we're gonna dictate, what we want to do. But you got to be able to rush together. If you got four guys rushing, and one guy gets out of his lane, then the quarterback's taking off, and that's putting pressure on the back end. So that goes back to being a group. You got rushes. We talk in our room, we're going to hunt together, and we're going to eat together. And that's the way it is. I mean, if one guy does one thing wrong, and that, like Coach said, you get exposed. But, Coach Gish talks about all the time with our guys is if you do your job and you're in your fit, the ball finds you, you make the play. And I think it really can be that simple sometimes. But it all starts with our attack-first mindset.
And one of those guys that you have to fill in for is Kelechi Onyelubetchi, kind of the middle linebacker last year. That was a captain and kind of led that defense. Who's kind of that guy? Maybe it's a guy that is a linebacker. Maybe it's a guy on the D-line or back end, but that has kind of taken the reins of this defense and kind of being the captain on the field for you.
I don't know if we have one specific captain. Up front we lean heavy on Darren Brown. Marcus Brown, like we talked about, Steven Parker and Deli. You know, those are the guys we really lean heavy on for experience. You know, they've played a lot of football, and you know, linebacker wise, I think we have 5 good linebackers that all bring different things to the table. You know, you got Ricky Rich, Mr. Williams, Derek Lewis, Tylen Foster, and Emmerich, who have all, you know, shown that they can play and start at this level and be damn good players. And you know, Ricky Rich is the one, you know, really, you know, gets us going as far as getting us lined up and making sure we're all on the same page, which that's number one job for a linebacker: communicate and make sure everybody's lined up. And I think they're all doing a dang good job right now.
I'll open up for any questions.
It's always a challenge when you come into a new situation. First of all, what you have to do is you got to get the guys on the same page with your philosophy and the coach's philosophy. And the important thing, when I came in here and Coach hired me, we're able to bring in a guy like Ben Olson and a couple other guys that were familiar with the schemes that we run. I'm really excited about our defensive staff. You know, we got Ben, Sam Bennett, George Sanders, and I think as far as in this level of competition, I mean, as good as any in the country. And I think it starts with that. And we talk to our guys, and our guys know when we walk out in the field, we're all going to be one. We're going to be unified. I mean, there's not going to be any talk about anything else. We'll go through some things in the meeting room, but when we walk on the field, we're all solid. Us all unified. And I think that, you know, this getting in here in the spring, you know, was good. We had a good spring, and basically, you know, we got to get guys believing in what we know are the keys to success, and I think we're at that point. I like this group. I think we got leaders in the back end. We got a bunch of guys that transferred in, you know, experienced guys that are waiting for their chance, hungry. You know, guys that have played a little bit that, you know, want to step up to the next level, and I'm thinking there's going to be good things that's going to happen here for the defense for the Cardinals this year.
I got a couple more questions for you. So, obviously, this is Coach had mentioned one of the big things for UIW was kind of a 180 of the defense, where it used to just give up a lot of points. Now it can win you a couple games. What does it say about the defense to kind of have that revolution and evolution to get to the point where it is, and how do you plan to continue to take it forward and make it even better, of one of the best in the FCS?
You know, I think it's if we can score 50 points a game, that'll be good. I mean, it changes the game around. I mean, you know, you're calling the defense a little bit different. You're taking a little bit more chances and all that type of thing. But you know, the bottom line is when I came in here, and I've gone to different places and taken over defenses and all that type of thing. I really didn't watch a lot of film about because I don't want any preconceptions of players that were here before or anything like that. I watched a little bit and then get them in spring and, you know, see for the things themselves. You know, I've been around long enough that, you know, I have certain beliefs in defense. So, I mean, I watched a little bit, but I wasn't even concerned with what they were doing scheme-wise last year, because it doesn't affect what we're going to do this year. And you know, our job, bottom line, as coaches, and I think we do a really good job with it, is getting our guys to believe in what we do. And if we can do that, and we send them out in the field on Saturdays with the belief and the unity and all that type of thing, we're going to be good. That's the bottom line and everything.
And then my final question for you both, I'll let you both take a shot at it. There's a saying that iron sharpens iron, and when you go up against an offense like your own that puts up 50-plus points last year and is just as explosive and probably one of the better offenses in the entire FCS, how does that get your defense ready for what you're going to see each and every week? Because if you're dominating in practice, you feel like you can easily dominate the other team once game time comes. And I'll start with you and then go over to you.
You know, I think we believe that we're going to be one of the best offenses in the conference and in the country, and we tell our guys daily that if we go out there and we line up and get after our offense, we're doing good things, and it's a indication of how well we can do this season, and so every day is a battle in practice, and when they, I tell them when they walk out there, it's competition. I mean, we're teammates and all that type of thing. We're going to compete, and I've been really happy with the way offensively, defensively we've competed during two-a-days in the spring. I like the mentality of the defense, competitiveness. We won't back down from anybody. We're confident, and we're ready to get this thing kicked off.
Coach?
I think a big thing you've noticed from camp is it's a very focused group. They come out and they work hard every single day. And there's a lot of competition going on out there. But not just competing offense, defense, but competing against others in the position group for starting jobs. And I think there's guys really pushing each other. And, I mean, when you're able to do that and you exchange blows back and forth within a fall camp, you have a chance to be special. And I think that's definitely what we've seen. Up front, we get to go against an O-line. We got five upperclassmen in that O-line that, they give us some damn good looks and, show us some things that is good for our guys to see, before we get into a game. And I think that's been some good battles up front all camp.
Any final questions for our defensive coaches? Go ahead.
I've coached with Coach Snyder a while back. I mean, I got tremendous respect for him. But one of the guys that I was with there was a guy named Phil Bennett, who was the defensive coordinator. I've worked with him for 19 years at different places. He was the head coach at SMU. I was the defensive coordinator. We've been at Kansas State. We were at Iowa State together. We're at North Texas together. We're at Baylor together. And really kind of the whole genesis of what we do on defense comes from that mentality. I started as a GA. He was the linebacker coach. I was a GA for a guy named John Fox, who ended up being a head coach at two different places in the NFL. But I mean, that's kind of where the whole genesis of the defense comes from. And we brought it. Rex Ryan was the defensive coordinator when we first got to K-State. He didn't last long with Coach, but and then Coach Bennett ended up being the coordinator, and I was the DN coach, and I moved to linebacker. So, that's the way things go at this point in time. But Coach Briles too. The mentality when we brought us in, we had Robert Griffin as the quarterback, and but we ended up winning 2 Big 12 championships because I think the defense improved. And I think if you ask Coach Briles, is that a huge factor? He'd agree totally with it. And I think you got to match, especially when you got a tempo offense, you got to match the defense with it. And you got like I go back to what I said: create turnovers, get stops in the red zone. All right, all those things are important.
Anything else? Coach Gush, Coach Olson, thank you very much for your time. And next will be our offensive player panel. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to our UIW 2023 Football Media Day. Now we have our offensive player panel, and on this panel, starting to my right, quarterback Zach Calzada. To his right, wide receiver Jalen Campbell. To his right, running back Jarrell Wiley. To his right, wide receiver Brandon Porter. And on the very end, next to Brandon, is our offensive lineman Jaden Borjas. And guys, I'm going to start off with Zach and then go down the line. So Zach, you're one of the many transfers from the FBS level and on the entire team, lots of new faces and new transfers. So what kind of sold you on UIW over any other FBS or FCS school, and how's that transition to UIW been for you?
Well, it was really the vision. I got on the phone with Coach Killough and Coach McQueen, and they broke down the situation, and it was a leap of faith for sure. Knowing, like they've been saying, there was a lot of missing pieces from last year. Wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but I had faith in Coach Killough, and I really feel like God put me in this position, and this is where He want me to go, and I put my faith in Him and in the coaches that showed me a dream that I can make a reality, and I think it's all being put together. All the guys that have come in, seeing the established culture that we have with the guys that have remained here and just following their lead, and then and stepping up and trying to be leaders through example, trying to get guys and be a source of energy for the team every day. And that's really what sold it was the dream to go get a conference championship and a national championship, and achieve everything I've ever wanted.
Talk about that established success with Lindsey Scott before you, and before him Cameron Ward. Did that play a part in going to a school that, hey, there's a system out there that quarterbacks are flourishing, and I want to throw the ball and have some big numbers and possibly chase after those conference championships and national championship dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially, you see last year, seeing 4,600 passing yards and 60-plus throwing touchdowns is definitely something that drew my attention for sure. And, the success that was had here last year just goes into, that culture that's set, and we're just looking to take that next step. This is a new team in a new year, and I'm excited to be a part of it with my guys.
Jalen, you were a part of that team last year that was so close to getting to Frisco, and one of the messages all year from Coach Killough, starting in December all the way till now, is 4 points, 4 quarters. How big are those 4 words for you and the entire team this offseason, preparing and trying to get back to that national semifinal and over the hump into the national title game?
I think a big part of it is discipline that comes into it. We were disciplined all season last year, and then like we've been preaching this year, intentional detail. So as long as we stay and stick into that mode and that detail, I feel like we'll be fine. We'll be right back where we were last year.
And you're part of this wide receiver core that was so deep last year. You lose Taylor Grimes, Darian Chafin, but have just as much depth, if not more, this year. How is the wide receiver room kind of sharpening each other, competing with each other, and what's it like on a day-to-day basis in that wide receiver room?
Like Coach Killough said earlier, the receiver room has never been a problem at UIW ever since 2018. But yeah, I always believe you have to be a learning sponge. So just from them two last year, you could take different perspective of their gameplay and their style. Just from Taylor Grimes being a playmaker and knowing the game and things like that, and then the other side, Darian Chafin, a great athlete, and him understanding the game too. So they set a standard, honestly, basically the best receivers I've ever been around, honestly. And so, you know, you just look at them and what they did. You want to either just grow from that. So.
You can go ahead and pass it to Jarrell. Jarrell, obviously you were part of the team last year as well. That was so explosive, 50-plus points per game. But most of that production's gone. So with a lot of new faces and a lot of new starters and leadership roles, just how explosive can this offense be this year?
I feel as if we added a lot of great pieces. Like you said, our receiver room is still pretty much solid. We got a lot of great running back additions still. We got great old linemen, people that we can trust. So we look more of it as a brotherhood. Like we said, we do everything intentional. We work with intentional effort. We go in every day knowing that we're going to do our best to strive to get to where we want to be. So I just know that really everybody got each other back, and we're just going to keep growing from there and see where it take us.
And you were one of those players that was with Marcus Cooper in that running back room. Obviously, he's moved on, but what are you wanting to do in stepping into a bigger role and bigger piece into the offense this year?
Really, yeah, Marcus was my dog. I learned a lot from him. Also, Kevin Brown. So really just being behind those guys from my little past 2 years, 2.5 years, it grew me as a player and a person. Like, really, I know, like, just seeing the talent every day that they had, I kind of wanted to base and just learn off of what they had as older guys. Even Trey now, like, Trey's a very hard-working person, and he just comes wanting to work every day. And I kind of just, like, he kind of give me energy to come do it as well. And I just want to lead my offense to, you know, the Natty championship, of course, but 1,500 yards, I kind of, Coop's my dog, but, you know, I want to go and get it. That's my thing. That's what I want to do.
You can go ahead and pass it to Brandon. Obviously, last year with a new quarterback, you had to get to know Lindsey and build that chemistry. Got to do the same thing here with Zach and a lot of the other quarterbacks. How is that chemistry being built, whether it was in the fall or the spring? Just how much of a bond do the wide receivers have with Zach, and where's that at right now?
For me personally, that bond, we built that. Luckily, Zach was a mid-year transfer, and he was able to get in early, and just become one of the guys. He didn't try to become, you know, instant leader, instant superhero. You know, he just came in and he played his role. So I feel like with Zach, we had an instant bond. You know, he was cool from the jump. I feel like with the group entirely, I feel like we love Zach. You know, obviously he's the guy that gets us the ball. So we have a lot of trust in him, and you know, we base our bond off of trust. And that's actually one of the pillars, the 4 pillars in our program, which is intentional trust, which follows intentional love, which we have a lot of love for Zach as well. And, you know, the relationship there is really good.
And obviously, Coach McQueen comes in from USC, different OC, but running very similar styles. Has anything really changed from the offense this year to last year, or is it more just verbiage and maybe some new plays here or there?
I would say our identity is we want to play as fast as we can at all times, and I think that's something that Coach McQueen has kept from last year. But he brings his own identity. He brings a whole different twist to this program, and especially our offense. He said this early in the spring. It doesn't matter if we win the game by a point, as long as we win the game. And he's one of those guys that, of course, he's the offensive coordinator and he wants to score 100 points, and you know, put his name on the map, of course, and show what he can do as an offensive coordinator. But he's one of those guys that just wants to win, and that's the identity that he brings to this offense and this program is we want to win. and it doesn't matter how we win. We just want to win.
You can go ahead and pass it to Jaden. And Jaden, on the O-line, you lose 4 of 5 starters from last year. So there's got to be a big learning gap of gelling together and trying to become together as a unit. How has that cohesion and building process been in the fall as well as the spring?
Yeah. With everybody coming in, the transfers coming in, guys like Silas Robinson, Joe Bryson, older guys that are, grad transfers that really came in and wanted to be with the guys, wanted to learn with the guys and help the younger guys come along too. I think that was a really important part. And just trusting each other and growing together as the O-line is the biggest part. And we're just going to play with high effort and run it up. So.
And as an offensive lineman, you might not get the glamour as all these guys to your left. But what does it when a team scores 50 points per game? How does that kind of boost your confidence and energy of, hey, what we're doing is freeing up these guys to go score touchdowns, and how much energy does it give you to, hey, I want to knock even more people down?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an amazing feeling seeing these guys score touchdowns. I mean, that's why we do it. Like I said, as long as we play together, 11 guys doing their job, we'll be okay. So.
Any questions for any of our 5 offensive players?
Zach, with 4 returning this, you got a lot of minutes last year. Does that make the job easier? Is it more confident when you got 4 solid guys and know what they're doing when things have to be?
Absolutely. Oh, my bad. Absolutely. I mean, I think our offense is to the point where all 10 guys out there make me comfortable with what we got going on. So, there's a lot of established trust. It's been built, and we're still building it. But it's definitely there, and we take pride in that. And we know that we got to play with 11 guys every play to have success. And, our guys are very intentional and take a lot of pride in doing that. So I feel comfortable with whoever we roll out there with.
Jalen, I'll ask you this question. Didn't get to ask Coach Killough this question, but y'all have had success against FBS teams the last 2 years, beating Texas State and Nevada last year. Get to play UTEP game 1, only FBS team on the schedule. What kind of extra motivation maybe is there when you play a team like that, and what's giving y'all success to be able to not just play with those boys, but to beat them?
I think here today, social media is a big thing. It may get to some people, may not, but I was about to say, people try to make the FBS teams, try to make them look like the big dogs, and things like that. But it's just the people in the FCS are just as good, just as big and fast as the people in the FBS. So at the end of the day, I believe whoever wins the game has more heart. So the past few years, it was good personnel, but at the end of the day, it was heart. So that's what I believe.
Jarrell, I got another question for you. Trying to go for a three-peat in the Southland, but you get SLU here at home. What the only blemish on last year's regular season schedule. Just how big? I know this is looking forward a little bit too much, but is there any type of extra revenge getting them at home to start Southland play, trying to go for a three-peat?
Right now, we really just focusing on step to step, step by step. I mean, game by game. So whenever we get there, we'll see. But we just working to get where we want to be at for right now. We know where we want to be at. We got the standard set already. We just got to go and get it.
And then final questions for you, or for everyone, if you want to pass it to Jaden and then everyone follow. Just what are some personal goals and team goals for the year that you have?
I say team goals. Obviously, we want to take it week to week, week by week. But we want to win every game. We want to go undefeated. Obviously, take it to the conference championship, and obviously, I mean, we want to take it to the Natty. I mean, that's obviously the goal. But like they said, it's step by step, game by game, week by week. We can't get tired of the process. So. Personal goals, I mean, I'm a big team guy, but if all conference, all American, that's my goal for sure.
Personal goal, I would say I want to make it through this season healthy. I want to finish this season just with a healthy mind and a healthy body. Team goals, I kind of put that on my team as well. I want my team to finish healthy, mentally and physically. But also team goals, I feel like we just have to play with the 4 pillars that Coach Killough has set for us, which is intentional detail, intentional effort, intentional love, and intentional trust. If we can come together as a team and play with those 4 pillars, I feel like as a team collectively we will reach our goal, which is the national championship.
And for team goals, for I'll say is just week by week winning games, going undefeated like Borja says. That's the biggest thing. And just staying healthy. Personal goals, I'll say, of course, I want to beat the rushing record, of course. And I'll do that by working hard every game, following behind my blockers, Zach getting me the ball. Coach McQueen tell him to give me the ball. But, yeah, I know that really we'll just work together and get to the conference champion, national championship. We're going to get to where we need to be.
Team goals, Coach McQueen harps on it mostly every day practice. We have to win the day. So I believe once we win the day, we can go on to win the week. And so once we go into the game Saturdays, we'll be confident and ready to go. And so I just like that statement. And personal goals, I really just want to just grow, kind of want to backdoor off of what Brandon said, have a healthy body, healthy mind. Just want to be there and encourage my teammates to be the best they can.
I mean, I think our team goal is pretty obvious. Like Coach McQueen said earlier, we want to start with the end in mind. So I think everybody's on the same page that we're here to win a conference championship and go win a national championship. I think that's everybody in the locker room, every single coach knows and wants that. And so it goes back to going step by step. And like J. Cam said, winning the day, we compete every day. Offense has been pushing the defense, and the defense has been pushing the offense. And, I'm really excited for us to be all on the same team and go up against somebody else. It's coming soon, and we're all excited for that. Personally, Coach Killough always tells me, I'm not going to win the Walter Payton or a national championship in one play. So, I have a lot of trust in Coach McQueen and just to do my job every play and play within the system. And I know that if I do a great job of that, then we're going to be in a good spot. And I have trust in my guys that we're going to go out and execute and achieve our goals.
Any final questions for the guys?
Me and Coach McQueen have a great relationship. It started, and, I don't know if he knows how much it meant to me, but my first day when I got here, we had a walkthrough the next day, and, I wasn't fully prepared to execute the walkthrough and truly know what I was doing, and we went outside under the lights and did a walkthrough on air up and down the field for probably about 400 yards. And, ever since then, I've had to put a lot of trust into him. Like I said, we have a great relationship, and that's probably the biggest difference is that. And I feel I have a lot of trust that he's going to have me very prepared to play this year, and that's probably the biggest difference.
Fellas, thank you very much for your time. Good luck this season, and we'll take one final break as we get the defensive player panel set. Stay tuned. All right, final segment here of the UIW Football Media Days. It's our defensive player panel, and we're going to introduce all these players. Starting to my right, defensive back Brandon Richard. To his right, Marcus Brown, defensive end. Mason Chambers. To his right, Richie Rich. To his right, and on the end is Stephen Parker. And I'll start with you, Brandon. Only 3 returning tacklers on the defense. You lose Kelechi and Caleb Colt, but you, Ricky, and Steven, those top 3 tacklers, what have y'all done to kind of elevate your game in this new defense where you have a lot of pieces you have to plug holes in?
Yes, sir. Well, obviously there's 3 people coming back, but you know, in the off season, we trained a lot to try to become better athletes and, you know, working on film and trying to become the best football players possible. But the best way that we decided to make this team better is to pour into our you know, our new teammates and our new guys that are going to be out there, the other 8 on the field. We feel if all 11 players go out there and they execute the best so they can do, that we're going to be okay. And there's going to be a lot of other tacklers out there.
You talked about pouring into your players. It seems like you've stepped into kind of that leadership role that Kelechi kind of had. Do you kind of feel like the captain of the defense, or how is the defense coming together as a unit?
Yes, sir. Me personally, I just feel like another dude out there on the team. I mean, there's 11 guys out there. Everybody has their own role they have their own hard job, and every job is just as hard. But I watched Kelechi the past 3 years of my career, me playing football. I've been next to him for 3 years, and I had to see the things that he did, and it really amazed me, and it made me want to become a better player and a better man. So yeah, I just decided, I took a couple things from his game and how he wanted to lead the team, but really you lead the team by being a part of the team and, you know, getting everybody on the same page. And I think we've done a good job of that. I think our new guys have done a good job of buying into our culture and creating a great opportunity, which is this defense.
Question for you, Marcus. Last year, UIW's defense kind of really feasted on tackles for loss and sacks, something you did very well there at Howard, you being a transfer from there. Describe what kind of helps you kind of cause havoc and get to the quarterback and be so successful in those situations.
I would say being just knowing, our coaches, like Coach Olsen, Coach Goods, they all do great film study. They all tell you what the O-line is going to do, what the running back's going to do, what the quarterback, like what the tip is. So it's all about knowing. Like, you know, sometimes you are just like in the right place at the right time. But 9 times out of 10, you just know where you're supposed to be. And that's how I made a lot of plays last year, and that's how we're going to make a lot of plays this year.
And you mentioned Coach Olsen and Coach Gush, two new coaches for you and new coaches for the entire defense. How fun has it been to work with them, and what have you kind of been learning from them?
It's been real fun. I've had a lot of fun learning from Coach Olsen every single day, learning a lot of his defensive philosophies, knowing he's came from professional football, coached in this conference before a couple of years ago. So I just know he has a lot of knowledge. He knows a lot about the D lineman and how to get to the quarterback, which is what I want to do and which is like my main goal. And then Coach Gush is just knowledge, really. I love soaking up from people who have a lot of knowledge, and Coach Gush has one of the best defensive minds I've been around. Just every single day, just knowing what to do, and he keeps it real simple. He's just like, do your 111. If everything goes right, somebody will be wide open, ready to make a play. You just got to make the play.
For you, Mason, one of Coach Killough's slogans when he got hired was San Antonio raised, UIW made. You yourself are from San Antonio, the area, going to Clemens. How cool has it been to come back and kind of play in your hometown?
You know, personally, I feel like it's one of the main reasons why I came here to UIW. You know, I knew a couple of the guys on the team already, so it's not like I was stepping into a brand new program and meeting, you know, a whole new team. It felt like I was already, you know, comfortable. I was already at home. You know what I'm saying? You know, knowing Brandon, knowing a couple other guys, Dante. I already knew that I was coming into a winning culture. So this is pretty much a dream to me to be able to represent San Antonio and to just, you know, play for the city.
You can keep it up. Another question. Coming from Iowa State, playing in the Big 12, obviously you've played at that FBS level like a lot of the guys have, coming into a big-time FCS team. What maybe is kind of the difference that you've seen here in fall camp, adjusting to the new team, and what do you think your experience at that level brings to the defense?
I think that, you know, I'm really here just to keep the defense level-headed. You know, everyone's going to have their highs, everyone's going to have their lows, but I feel like, you know, coming from, you know, where I came from, a big part of it is just keeping calm. You know what I'm saying? Focus and refocus. So being in the back end, you know, you got to know your assignment. You know, there's going to be big plays, there's going to be busts or whatever the case may be, but, you know, you got to line up, next play mentality, and keep going. So that's probably the biggest thing from coming from where I did.
Now, Richie, last year, obviously losing Kelechi to graduation and going to the NFL is a huge piece that y'all have got to figure out how to fill. But it looks like y'all have done a great job of possibly building more linebacker depth than y'all had last year. Just walk us through kind of that linebacker room would you say that you feel like there's possibly more depth than last year or no?
Yes, sir. Looking at last year, Kalechi, he really paved the way, and he took me under his wing, and he really showed me how to do things. And I feel as a group, we have it already paved in front of us. We just have to walk the path. And I feel like we have a lot of depth, and Coach brought in a bunch of talent, and I feel like we're ready to go.
How has the competition been, not just in the linebacker room, but all over the place? Obviously, getting eight spots, besides you, Steven, and Brandon being returning starters. But Coach said kind of every spot was up for grabs. Kind of walk us through that competition all spring and all fall.
Yeah, there's a bunch of competition, and I feel like that competition brings the best out in everybody. It makes you have to come with your A game every single day, and I feel like with the amount of competition we have, that the best 11 are going to play, and there's so much depth that anybody can play.
Now, Steven, I know I don't like to bring up bad memories, but Coach had said that he's played and replayed the tape of the North Dakota State game to y'all during the off season as part of that kind of instilling the 4 quarters, 4 points mantra. Kind of what emotions did you feel rewatching that game, knowing that y'all were that close, and how much extra drive does that give you to trying to reach that point again?
I just feel like it bring a lot of emotion out. We was right there at the end. We just got to finish hard, so that's why we hold on 4 quarters, and we just got to keep going.
How much emphasis has there been on kind of winning the trenches? Coach Olson and Coach Gush talk about winning up front. How much pride do you take in trying to win not just your one-on-one, but as a collective unit there on the defensive line, winning as a whole and getting into the backfield?
As a D-line on our defense, we take that very serious. It started with the top 4, and then we just go on from there.
Any questions for any of our 5 guys?
Brandon, with different coaching staff, different grad transfers in defense, and the trend still going upward for UIW football, what do you think it is about the culture that no matter what guys are here, no matter what coaches are here, the defense is still on an upward trend?
I think that we just work really hard and that we just communicate with each other. And at the end of the day, like I think the last year, one of the things that they did really good, those guys did, was that they developed new leaders for the next generation of football players, you know. It's been like that since I've gotten here. There's always been like good mentors that have given other players like a way of how to go. And I think that if we just keep doing that, the defense is going to continue to prosper and they're going to continue to see good players come out of the school. I'm feeling excited and very ready to go. I can probably tell that the rest of our guys are pretty excited. We go out there and practice every day, and we always talk about it. It's like, you know, we're gonna be the reason. We're gonna win or lose the game, so it's all on us, and we're ready to up for that challenge. And I remember there's this one quote that came around. It's talking about like the butterflies being in formation, and it's like you ever feel those butterflies inside you. It's like you got to use them. You can't just let them consume you. You got to use them like rocket fuel, and you got to like. That's the most dangerous mode. That's when you get up there and you can play your best. So I think we're all ready to go.
Got a question from Marcus. Being one of these many transfers, what kind of sold you on UIW, and how has that transition been for you?
What's so on UIW is just Coach Killough. He's just a genuine coach, and he genuinely cares. Like, he wants to talk. He wants to talk. He wants to see how your life's going. Wants to see how you're doing in school. He actually cares. And the same thing with Coach Olson and Coach because they all just care about me. And really, that's all I was looking for when I entered the portal. I just wanted a coaching staff that cared about me, but was going to push me. Like, when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, tell me I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Tell me, like, if you want to get to the next level, if you want to be great, you have to step it up. Like, I want someone to hold me to the standard. Like, if I want to be one of the best players in the country, you got to hold me to that standard. And that's what this coaching staff has done.
I would say, besides obviously getting in front of the ball, you know what I'm saying, catching the ball, doing ball drills, I would say, knowledge of assignment. We continuously talk about how knowledge is power. So I feel like knowing your assignment, knowing where you're supposed to be, the ball's going to come to you. You just have to make the play. So I feel like, as a defense, everyone, like Marcus said earlier, doing your 111th, that's a big part of defense. Knowing where your help is, knowing where you're supposed to be, and you just got to make the play when it comes.
Richie, another question for you. As a front seven, very disruptive last year. From what you've seen here in the fall, who are some guys up front that are really creating havoc and helping free up the linebackers to go make tackles, either on the quarterback or on the running back in the run game?
I feel like the whole D-line. The whole D-line is stacked with a bunch of freaks, and they make my job easy. They clear everything up for me and make my reads a lot really easy, and I feel like we're going to just create a lot of chaos this year.
And then, Steven, one more for you. Just watching practice and the scrimmage earlier, you seem like the Energizer Bunny for this defense, bringing the energy no matter what it is. Where do you kind of get that energy from, and what has that high motor in you?
I feel like everybody got like a piece to play, and I feel like energy is my piece. I bring the energy. If everybody dry, look at everybody, tell them let's go. We got to win.
And then I'll close it with you here and then bring it all the way back. Some personal team goals that you have for the defense.
Don't let them score. Got to win.
Any personal goals for you?
Not really. I just got to be disciplined.
Team goals, obviously, we want to win a conference and national championship. And as a defense, I want us to be the best we can be. Don't give up a lot of points and create a lot of turnovers. And personally, I just want to play my role and do the best I can and put my name on the map.
Yeah, I would say, you've heard this so many times already, that conference and national championship is what we're chasing. As far as the defense, you know what I'm saying, we trying to be number one. That's always the goal. You want to be the best defense there is. And personally, it's the same thing as everybody else. I'm just trying to do my best. I'm trying to get awards if they come to me. But and when it comes to it, it's just about me reaching and becoming the best me.
For team goals, the same things. Everybody just Southland Conference Championship and National Championship, and then just for me personally, just trying to help the team out as any way I possibly can. Whether that's just helping out, just playing a major role on defense, and just helping everybody reach their goals. And I'm also one of the major personal goals is just becoming more of a vocal leader, because I've led for a long time just by example. But one thing I just want to become more of a vocal leader. And then for the defense, I feel like we can be the best defense in the country if everybody just does what they need to do. We have the talent, we have the coaching, we just need to put it all together.
For the team goals, what I'd like for this team to do is I'd like us to keep the standard and keep the culture and keep it going. And for defensive goals, I want us to be the nastiest, best defense out there. I want us to come out there with aggression. I want us to come out there and be smart and be the best defense in the nation. And then for me personally, what I want to do is I want to continue to develop the next generation of players. I think that I've been blessed to have a lot of people to help me out, so it would only be right to help the next people out.
Any final questions for our guys? If that's it, that concludes the defensive panel and our entire football media days. Thank you guys, everyone, that coaches, players, and good luck to y'all starting the season at UTEP on September 2nd. This has been UIW Football Media Days.